So what about some of the other externalities? I mean, I'm not a scientist at all, and so in a way I'm deferring to you and everybody else who's an expert. But, here are some other things that people say. Petrochemicals, so there is the pesticide issue, but there are also all these ways in which we fertilize and use petrochemicals to get these soy and corn products to grow to these gargantuan heights so that we can then feed them to the animals that we're trying to raise in these intensive environments. And then also want to return to the worker issue. Can we get the sort of efficiencies that you're describing in a labor context that's not abusive?
Okay, let's take those in two parts and even parse that a little bit further. Corn and soy, we've highly mechanized. So in fact, part of the issue is that we use less labor and we use it in a more sophisticated way. It is the small organic farms that have a lot of weeding to do and have a lot of hand labor, a lot of back-breaking labor. It is the big farms that have the efficient harvesting systems. And again, part of the fight in organic is, can you have big farms with modern equipment? But otherwise, you're talking about labor. Labor is clearly an issue. We have come to the point in this country where we're not willing to do the work that our society needs in many cases, and we're passing it on to migrant workers. And there is no question that they are being abused. And again, I say economic efficiency, but an externality like that does need to be incorporated, and we do need to raise the price of food to cover decent salaries for our working folks. I would like to make an interesting distinction between soy and corn. Corn is essentially raised for either our food supply and many ingredients or for feeding. The soybean, we need soybean oil. The soybean meal is already a byproduct which people realized that one of the best uses is to feed it to animals. So the soybeans are being raised anyway, in the sense that we need the oils for our French fries. That would continue to be. The corn is the place where you can argue.
I mean, we don't need to raise it using all the NPK that we do we?
Well, again, this is the question of precision agriculture. Farmers traditionally, again, because you have equipment, and the cheaper equipment just sprays it all out there. And they said, what the heck, it wasn't that expensive to do. So again, we're recognizing that that is not the right way to do it. It's wrong. We need to make sure that the amount of fertilizer is appropriate for that piece of land, and that's where precision farming allows us to parse it into smaller and smaller units. And we don't need to just put it out because it's there and we can do it. And the same with pesticides. As far as the petrochemical, one of the things our Cornell and other large universities are trying to do is to make more and more of these things from biomaterials, which again is closing the cycle as we take the corn and the corn cob, which is the food, or we take the corn, but we can take the corn cob, can we use it to make plastics and other things? And the same even with some of the manure. Can we use it to do other things to close the cycle, to lower our dependence on the petrochemicals? We did petrochemicals because petroleum was cheap and available. And of course, right now, when we're speaking at this time, we're watching the the oil prices drop precipitously, causing all kinds of discontinuities. But one of the problems is every time that happens, it draws away the incentives for all these other programs. I mean, in some ways, those of us who are concerned about some of these issues, a reasonably but high price for petrochemicals, for petroleum and the base for petrochemicals, incentivizes the wind and the solar and the bioconversion systems. If the price of oil stays down, all these systems will be disincentivized because those are subject to economics of large-scale global economics.
Okay, so just so I get the ethical upshot of your sort of overall picture, tell me if this is right. If you're going to kill animals, if you think that killing animals is okay ethically, which some people don't, but let's suppose we do, and you want to do it in a way that's healthy, efficient, and effective in feeding a huge number of people coming onto the planet, you need to do some of these intensive industrialized methods. There are problems with the current system. There are animal welfare problems, there are externalities, there are worker issues, there are pollution issues, but we can keep using our science and technological expertise to refine these processes, make them better for the animals, better for the people involved, better products in the end, healthier, and ultimately that's a kind of ethical stance towards feeding the world in a way that's least harmful, at least if you're willing to kill animals.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Good.
Well, thank you. That was a very interesting discussion. Thanks.